coming to yet another edition of DataCon Pakistan 2021. This series of conferences around digital transformation and DataCon was started by Scaphouse approximately 3 years ago, and I was there with them back then, and I still remember the efforts and the time we put in, trying to arrange the best speakers, the best audiences from around the country, and to talk about the most important steps. However, today when I look back, I see that we've moved far ahead from where we started. We started off from the importance of data, and then today we have reached to a point, we have reached to a time where we do not need to talk about how important data is. Whereas today the talks are more around, not just in Pakistan but globally, more around how data can be used, how AI can be used, how machine learning can be used. We have a good line of speakers today too, but just in order to start off formally, I would like to invite the man himself, Akbar Aqil, CEO of Scaphouse, to recite a few verses from the Holy Quran and give his opening remarks. Please put a big hand for Akbar Aqil.
Thank you, Ayaz. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وإن تبدوا ما في أنفسكم أو تخفوه يحاسبكم به الله فيغفر لمن يشاء ويعذب من يشاء والله على كل شيء قدير. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. صدق الله العظيم. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to thank Allah that we were able to do this conference despite all the uncertainties post-COVID times. I would like to thank my parents. Without their prayers, this couldn't have happened. I would like to thank my family, my friends, my team, Scaphouse, my wonderful team. They did really hard work for this event to happen. I welcome you all to the second edition of DataCon Pakistan 2021. The theme of the conference is, as you all know, harness the power of data analytics to evolve into an insight-driven enterprise. We have experts from across the field who will be staying with us for the day, sharing their thoughts, knowledge and opinions with the rest of us. I will not be talking on data. We have the experts to take you through this topic throughout the day. But yes, I must say that data is today's oil, today's gold, today's money, without any doubt. At Scaphouse, we are into two businesses. One is IT consultancy and the other one is conferences and trainings. So in the COVID times, we saw both the businesses act differently. The training and conferences business was down because nobody was willing to invest in physical events. But on the other hand, when we talk about our IT consultancy business, it saw an exponential growth. So everybody was going digital, everybody was looking for solutions, to meet different people virtually somehow, to do the business as usual. So what we did, that based on the data we had, we slowly started to launch some virtual trainings and conferences. And people had no choice. There was a need for organizational development. We saw organizations registering their employees for the virtual trainings and events. And things picked up slowly for only those who possess the data, the relevant data. Since our team have already done a number of trainings and conferences in the past 2 decades, we had the relevant data and we capitalized on our strength of IT consultants by conducting the trainings through virtual platforms using the relevant data. We hope that we are now done with the pandemic and we believe we are back to normal life. I hand over the day to the Master of Ceremony as well as staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Akbar. The first speaker of the day is from IBM. He has over 20 years of experience working with the telco, the government, and even the financial sector. He has helped companies transform from the on-premises to the hybrid network to the cloud environment. He's here to talk about how AI will actually transform your data analytics, and he's going to talk about how we can debug the machine. So please put your hands together for Ashraful Kabir, Customer Success Manager from IBM Pakistan.
Assalamualaikum. Being the first speaker, this is an advantage. I'm extremely nervous because I can understand, this is a tough topic to talk about, machine learning, early on in the day. So what I wanted to do was basically make it very simple and try to contextualize it in a way that you were able to make sense in the 20 minutes how we make machines learn and what it means for business and how we can actually revolutionize analytics using machine learning. So I'll give some examples as well as I'll start from the very basics. So when I thought about this topic, I thought, the first thing that we should really think about is how do we actually learn? What is learning basically? So learning basically, if you kind of try to understand, is the process of being right about things. And if you can do it repeatedly, then you learn, right? And typically, the first kinds of learning that as humans that we do is basically, we try and study precedents. So we look at the past, we try to see how things work in the past, and we try to learn from it, right? So typically, humans learn from experience. And there are two kinds of learners. One is basically, those who learn by heart, but they're not actually learning, they're just trying to mimic learning, but they're not learning. The clicker is not working. Okay, there are two kinds of learners. So ones that actually learn by heart, and the others who learn by practice. And what we all already know is that those that learn by practice are actually the ones who actually learn, right? So this is actually how humans learn, right? And if you look at a machine, what is a machine all about? A machine basically allows the capability of humans to actually, extend themselves, right? So it's an extension of human, and you try to do things more efficiently and in a repeated fashion, right? So that's a machine. So machine allows humans to extend their capabilities, and it is based on certain defined rules. It is very predictable, the kinds of outcomes that we can get. So, you basically, a typical machine is made from parts, right? The parts work in tandem and they produce an output, right? So that's typically how machines work. So now if you were to combine these two things together, that if we can achieve some predictability of outcomes, and if we can learn from experiences, then we actually make machine learning, right? That's how we actually do it. But let's also look at how computing has evolved, right? So computing is basically transforming machines into software-driven systems. Just hang on this thought for a minute. just try to understand how machines have transformed over the past 150 years. You know, we started from a wheel, right? We started with the automotive industry, we started with the steam engines. And now look at, you know, the technology evolve into a way that now we have a machine which is in our pocket, which is basically a hardware machine. But actually, what is driving it? It's the software which is driving it, right? So, what has happened is that more and more logic is now actually being encoded as software, right? And it is now available. So basically, software is the way in which we enable new capabilities, and we push it out to this device. Now, let's look at what machine learning is. So basically, machine learning allows computers to learn without being explicitly programmed. हम कोडिंग करके किसी को सिखाते हैं, हम मशीन को बताते हैं कि इस तरह से आपने परफॉर्म करना है. So that's a typical way how we bring new capabilities. But in machine learning, what we try to do is we allow the computer to learn without actually programming, right? The earlier attempts that were there for machine learning were actually to mimic humans. हमने शुरू में कोशिश की कि जिस तरह humans काम करते हैं, बात करते हैं, तो ELIZA हमने बनाया, which was basically to converse and try to give this impression that the machines are now able to understand. But that was really not AI. It was not machine learning. And we are still struggling with it. It is still a struggle. We are still trying to achieve that utopia goal कि हम human जैसे बन जाएं. But you'll be surprised to know that we've actually excelled in certain capabilities. So I'll just explain that in a bit and try to make sense of this. So, अगर हम machine learning को basically explain करें in the form of a formula, it's basically to improve performance. The goal is always to improve performance at doing a task key, okay, with some relevant experience that you have from the past. So let's look at this example, right? This is basically a typical text classification example, जिसमें हम sentiments judge करना चाहते हैं, and we want the machine to learn and tell us what is the current sentiment of the customer. ठीक है, जो उसने topic अपने social media पे लिखा है, उसका क्या मतलब है, ठीक है? So typically हम ये चाहते हैं कि when the customer types "I'm not happy with the delays," we should know that it is a negative sentiment, and if he types "It's a great app," we should know that it is a positive sentiment. Right? And we want the machine to learn this and do it by themselves. How would we go about doing this? So let's look at this example from that formula. This is basically the task that we want to achieve. What would be the experience? The experience is basically a database. हम पहले से बना के एक database दे देंगे जिसमें human से कहेंगे कि इसको label कर दो कि कौन सा positive है कौन सा negative है और उसको हम save कर देंगे database में, right? So this is a database which is called the experience. And then उसकी performance क्या होगी? Performance ये होगी कि अगर वो बेहतर होता है इस काम को करने में या as good as होता है जितना human ने किया है, तो then we'll say कि it's actually successful, that it has learned, that the machine has learned. So we'll keep on attempting it and ask the machine to judge text, and if it is marking it correctly, then we'll say that it has learned. So this is an example. Now let's look at playing chess as the other example. And I'll ask the audience a little bit. So the basic task is playing chess and winning the game. What would be the experience in this? Anybody who would like to just comment? What would be the experience? What would be the...
Saying checkmate.
Sorry?
Saying checkmate.
Saying checkmate. Yes, a database of chessboard moves and recorded outcomes. हम एक database maintain करेंगे जिसमें हम outcomes देखेंगे और जो भी लोगों के होंगे और हम maintain करेंगे. Or performance would be the number of times you have won, right? So we can keep on going and actually look at each example of machine learning and try to fit it within this broader concept of tasks and experience and performance. So I'm trying to actually move to the next slide. Okay. Similar as the case with autonomous driving, ये किस तरह achieve हुई? Again हमने एक database रखा जिसमें हमने maintain किया. So if I were to, can you move this? Sorry, I'll just skip this example because I want to explain the next topic. ये ट्रिगर काम नहीं कर रहा है। I think it's okay. So, what is the difference between machine learning and programming? Programming में हम करते क्या है कि हम data और program को use करते हैं, and we want to achieve desired outcomes and repeatable desired outcomes. This is called programming. This is what we've been doing with all the computing and the cloud and the the basic stuff, the machines हम जिसे कहते हैं. जो हम चाहते हैं, and over here the machine is basically acting like a processor. So it is processing the data according to the rules and producing the desired outcome. Now in machine learning we do it a little differently. What we do is we take the desired outcomes and we also take the current data which we are observing and we give it to this machine and the machine tells us what would be the rules so that it can do it the next time much better. Right? So हम इसमें logic या rules बनाने की कोशिश करते हैं और वो rules हमारे knowledge कहलाती है या corpus कहलाता है जिसको हम use करते हैं future में to judge. Now there are two kinds of AI. Actually there are three kinds of AI that exists. One is weak AI. You would be surprised what we call weak AI typically. So, actually a better term for weak AI is narrow AI. Narrow AI ये कहती है कि आप बड़ा specific problem statement लें और उसके अंदर training करें. ठीक है? So you are very focused on a particular. You are not going to solve the entire problem of the world, but you will pick a one specific area and you will try to solve it. But what the basic premise is that narrow AI cannot actually supersede human capabilities. Narrow AI will always be lesser in terms of capability as compared to a human. So example is Alexa, जो भी chatbot exist करता है, चाहे वो Watson हो या कोई और हो. These are some examples. Autonomous cars, of course, the autonomous car will never be able to drive better than a human, at least up till now, right? So these are some examples of weak AI. That means the AI that we have designed is able to do certain tasks, but it cannot replace a human, or it will always be superior, lesser in terms of capability as compared to human. So the performance is actually limited by how much the scope is. अगर आपने autonomous car को कहा है कि 60 से ऊपर की स्पीड नहीं जानी और उसके अंदर आपने ट्रेनिंग मॉडल डिजाइन किया हुआ तो उसी के अंदर ये रह के मैनेज कर सकता है, whereas a human can actually do much more, right? So this is an example of weak AI. Now what would be called strong AI? इसको हम artificial super intelligence कहते हैं, ठीक है? बेसिक आइडिया ये होता है कि ऐसे हम मशीन को ट्रेन करें कि वो ऐसे काम कर सके जो ह्यूमंस भी नहीं कर सकते इस वक्त. वो भी स्पेसिफिकली एक प्रॉब्लम के ऊपर फोकस करता है, बट द मेन टास्क इज दैट it should do it better than a human. Now what could be those tasks? Real-time fraud management, just an example. बहुत सारे transactions आ रही हैं एक वक्त में, you can't have humans look at that problem, that transaction and within milliseconds respond back saying that this is fraud or not. Right? It takes, and to have all that knowledge and the rules to apply and to tell कि वाकई में fraud हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा. ठीक है? So that is something that the human is not able to do. So this is again artificial super intelligence. Predictive maintenance. Can we tell, and we've seen that in examples, OGTCL के example लेता हूँ where I've also worked and seen कि वहाँ पर जब inspections होती थी तो चीज़ें रह जाती थी. मसलन जो वो ऑयल ड्रिल करते हैं तो उसको एक टेम्परेचर होता है, सेंसर होते हैं, वो मैंने मॉनिटर करते हैं, सारे सिस्टम्स थे उनके पास, but they were incurring a lot of downtime because वो ड्रिल फंस जाती थी because of excessive heat and not proper maintenance. तो मैनुअल इंस्पेक्शंस भी हो रही थी, सब कुछ हो रहा था, बट स्टिल दे नीडेड दिस कैपेबिलिटी कि वो उनको प्रेडिक्ट कर सकें पहले से यूजिंग एआई that when they should do maintenance, when they should change the oil, when they should go and change the bits that are used for drilling. This was another example. Searching the web. We can't search the web, the 50 billion web pages or and the millions that are coming in every day, every second, and get the result within milliseconds. So again, this is Google करते हैं. So all of these examples are specific AI examples, but they're very strong, they're quite strong AI. And these are the ones that are the golden nuggets that businesses are really harvesting and making use of to make sense, because it makes economic sense, it makes the right sense to use AI. Then there is this third kind of AI, which is called artificial general intelligence. And this is again a theoretical concept. The basic example of this is HAL, the computer in Space Odyssey 2001, if you've seen that movie, where the HAL takes over the humans. Another example is Matrix. It's only real in movies and fictional literature. Right? So the problem and the biggest myth that we have is that we still believe that we've achieved this general intelligence when we embark on AI projects. जैसे example लेता हूँ, chatbots के ऊपर अगर आप embark होंगे, the general expectation is that the chatbot is able to understand exactly my feelings, my emotions, and it is able to, just like a human, know my expressions and give me the best recommendation. That's not possible. That is again something that is good in movies, but it's also scary, because if it becomes possible, then we need governance to take over. We need the humans to govern the capabilities to which we allow the machines to learn themselves. So, इस वक्त जो emphasis है AI के अंदर, वो explainable AI के ऊपर है. यानी AI जब कोई decision लेता है, तो वो it should be able to explain why it took that decision. Right now, if a human takes a decision, we are able to ask the human, and the human is able to respond. But with AI, we also want this to be the case. So machines should be able to reason and explain their conclusions to be ethical. This is what we want, right? So there are certain examples. Project Debater एक example है जिसमें human के साथ debate हुई और machine ने debate की और उसमें reason करना हमने कोशिश की कि हम उसको reason करना सिखाएं. Jeopardy is another example जो कि हमने Watson के साथ किया था. So now let's look at what is deep learning, and then we'll talk about the examples. Deep learning is actually a subset of machine learning, and machine learning is actually a subset of artificial intelligence. So, how do we achieve deep learning? We do it through neural networks. Neural networks is basically a construct जिसके ज़रिए हम humans की जो reasoning की capability है उसको mimic करने की कोशिश करते हैं. And what is called a deep neural network is basically different layers of neural networks. So basically हम कोशिश ये करते हैं कि हर layer के ऊपर कुछ level of understanding achieve करें. So अगर ये image classification की example लें, तो पहले layer के ऊपर maybe हम उसकी image की shape देखना चाहेंगे, recognize करना चाहेंगे कि what kind of image this is about. दूसरी layer के अंदर हम हो सकता है शायद tendency देखें कि क्या ये एक जानवर की तस्वीर है. दूसरी लेयर के अंदर, थर्ड लेयर के अंदर हो सकता है हम उसका कलर ऑब्जर्व करें. चौथी लेयर के अंदर हम हो सकता है ये बताने के काबिल हो जाए दिस इज एक्चुअली अ पिक्चर ऑफ अ डॉग एज कंपेयर्ड टू अ कैट. सो दिस इज एक्चुअली द न्यू रेवोल्यूशन दैट हैज हैपेंड इन एआई. इसमें CNNs, DNNs, देयर आर डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ न्यूरल नेटवर्क, deep neural networks that we have developed and evolved. But basically यहाँ हमें success मिली है. So image classification, speech recognition, जो इस तरह की कैपेबिलिटीज हैं जो आप देखते हैं आजकल मोबाइल के ऊपर भी आपको अवेलेबल है. All those capabilities are now being possible through deep learning. So I wanted to highlight one example which might be closer to everyone because we deal with this every day, which is called AI ops. So the first thing that And the reason for that is that, you know, the IT operations of today is turning out to be very complex because we have to deal with so many technologies, so many clouds, so many vendors, so many solutions. We can't have so many skills sitting on the desks looking at so many screens every day and trying to figure out कि कहाँ पर मसला है, ठीक है? और ये अक्सर होता है कि डे टू डे लाइफ के अंदर के चैलेंज बन गया है to find the real cause. So too many alerts, too many indecision and confusion because there is the skill is not available. All kinds of skill are not available in any human right now, right? And there is long resolution times, ठीक है, because of that. So जो AI Ops का चैलेंज है वो ये है कि हम क्या IT operations के अंदर AI को यूज करके इन सारी चीजों को कम कर सकते हैं. And actually we can reduce the time to detect, to isolate the issue, to diagnose the issue, and also to fix it. So provide the recommendation based on what has happened in the past, that we've seen in the past work. We can actually give recommendations as well. So this is something that is very exciting and it has started to happen. They expect a 30% increase by 2023. And this is another example that I wanted to share, which is a practical example. It is being used by all the major hospitals in the world, about 5,000 of them, including some in Pakistan. They are already using these technologies. So doctors के पास हमेशा एक tool होता है. They have it on their mobile, they have it on their iPad or their hospital management systems. They can type in a drug or a symptom and immediately find the reaction that that drug might have with another drug that they're prescribing for that patient. और उससे related वो chat कर सकते हैं with that system and find out all further details. So this is again a kind of a combination of all the capabilities that we've talked about, working in practical environments. और इसमें अंदर आप देख रहे हैं जैसे explainable AI वाला concept है कि you can actually ask a series of contextual questions, clinically actionable answers, also the link to the relevant evidence. So how did it arrive at this conclusion? उसने relevant evidence भी यहाँ पे डाल दिया for the doctor. So this is the kind of things that are now possible using machine learning, AI, and basically my idea of trying to compress all of this into 20 minutes was to give you a brief overview of all the basic concepts and try to explain. But feel free to ask me any question, anything that you would like to, or any problem that you're facing in real life, and if you want to evaluate that, we can actually use AI for that. So I'm open to questions. Are we good on time, by the way?
रियल टाइम फ्रॉड मैनेजमेंट का आपने
जी.
उसमें अगर हमारे पास 1 मिलियन में एक ट्रांजैक्शन आती है तो हमारा तो अपना स्ट्रेटेजी इमेच्योर होगा, उसकी प्रोबेबिलिटी बहुत लो हो जाएगी.
Right.
हमें 10 से 20 साल लग सकते हैं उसको मैच्योर करने में, उस प्रोबेबिलिटी में लेके जाने में जहाँ वो
Right. So the question is कि अगर हम fraud management की example लें और अगर हमारे पास limited data set है, right, तो हम क्या करें? I would say, देखिए, वैसे it is surprising that fraud के case में limited data set हो, but in any case, there are new kinds of capabilities that are now available. जैसे transfer learning capability है, जिसमें pre-trained programs already या corpuses जिसमें जो किसी ने बनाए हुए हो पहले से, उसको use किया जाता है to turn with limited data set. So that is again a possibility to give machine learning के अंदर available है. But I would say you definitely need good quality data. So जो machine learning का basic premise है वो ये कि अगर आपके पास precedence नहीं है, if you don't have the data in the past that actually helps the machine learn, then it becomes very difficult to get a good machine learning algorithm. So the first thing that you should evaluate whenever you look at AI problems to solve, try to see if you've got good data, not just too much of data, but also good data, labeled data. आपने उसको properly label किया हुआ कि यार ये वाकई में fraud था कि नहीं था, ठीक है? Because the challenge that we have to understand, the challenge that we're trying to solve is that we cannot figure out as a human all the rules that are there for fraud management. We know that this was a fraud, or some people knew that this was a fraud, and some other people actually categorized some other kinds of cases as another kind of fraud. How can we actually combine this two body of knowledge together and make a machine learning algorithm? So this is the capability that we want out of AI, right? So let's look at what we want to achieve. We want to achieve the machine to be able to learn and predict. उसके लिए हमें data चाहिए और अच्छा quality का data. So that is one thing. The other thing is have the right expectations of the AI system. If you start and expect magic, that will not happen. And data भी ना दूँ और चीज़ भी ठीक आ जाए. I agree with you that that will be a challenge. So I think we need to be careful when we choose AI projects. Anybody else? By the way, the examples that I've talked about, all of these are actually examples in Pakistan. We've seen that happen in Pakistan with different customers. So I've named a few customers, but I have kept the names away. But these are all examples that have happened with the local resources and the capabilities. Of course, there is a learning curve. Of course, there is a step that has to happen. You have to have quality data. You have to have all the right skills. But we can achieve this. So that's the thing. Anybody else? Yeah, sure. Right.
algorithms यूज कर रहे थे मशीन लर्निंग के लिए लाइक रैंडम फॉरेस्ट डिसीजन ट्रीज न्यूरल नेट्स
Yeah.
ये सब इसके अंदर प्रोग्रामिंग नहीं हो रही होती है लाइक हम स्टैटिस्टिक्स यूज कर रहे होते हैं मैथमेटिक्स यूज कर रहे होते हैं तो हाउ कैन वी से दैट वी आर नॉट
Absolutely. So explicit programming means that you program line by line what you want the machine to work on and to do things. What you're talking about are algorithms that have already been designed, which basically use data to drive the project, right? So Bayesian networks की आपने बात की, आपने random forest trees की बात की. All these are actually algorithms that help the machine to figure out which is the rule that they need to keep. I'm just trying to make it easier for everybody. But to figure out actually what rules to keep and what to avoid to make decisions in the future. So अगर हम neural network बना रहे हैं तो we do the weight assignments according to the the situation कि हम उसको weight adjustments कर रहे होंगे. Basically that's what we do, right? With data. तो data से आप drive कर रहे हैं logic. That's basically the difference. Programming versus machine learning में जो डिफरेंस है वो ये है कि हम वहाँ पे एक्सप्लिसिटली बताते हैं कि कंप्यूटर अगर आपने मोबाइल के ऊपर एक ऐप बनानी है तो यू टेल इट कि यार अगर ये बटन प्रेस होगा तो ये करना है. इन मशीन लर्निंग वी डोंट डू दिस. व्हाट यू डू इज यू यूज दीस एल्गोरिथम्स बट दोस एल्गोरिथम्स आर यूज्ड ऑन द डेटा दैट यू हैव गिवन टू मेक द वी डोंट नो द रूल्स ourselves. We don't know the rules for fraud management. All that we know is that this was fraud and this was not. And there are a number of data columns that we know कि इस वक्त ये डेटा था ये पार्टी से ये पार्टी में इतने अमाउंट की ट्रांसफर हुई. दैट वी नो ये चैनल यूज हुआ और कितनी दफ़ा यूज हुआ और इस जगह से यूज हुआ. दैट वी नो. बट what we cannot figure out is all the complex logic or the rules. इसके लिए हम वो algorithms यूज करते हैं. Absolutely. So when I meant explicitly programming, I meant that we should also know the rules, which we do for mobile applications, but not for AI. Makes sense?
Hello. Hello.
G.
Sorry, the question is who's actually using these micromedics these days? Is it in use or is it just a tool that anyone can go and search on this micromedics?
Sorry, right? Micromedics, yes. This is basically a tool, and it is actually now available as part of the electronic health management system जो भी systems exist करती हैं वो उसके साथ ही आता है, bundle में आता है. And it's also available on the internet, by the way.
Are there any Pakistani users?
Yes, there are Pakistani users. So different
Organizations, are they using it in the back end or are we still using doctors and consultancy?
So hospitals are using this because they have their electronic management systems जिसके अंदर ये embedded होता है. So आपने देखा होगा कभी अगर आप if you go to a hospital and you ask about a drug, वो जाके check कर रहे होते हैं on a system. Yeah, they use their phones as well. So they have it already. And by the way, this is free of cost. There is no charge for this solution. It becomes embedded with the record management system. So वो use करते हैं उनको पता भी नहीं है शायद how they do it.
फायदा तो दिखना चाहिए इससे दिख रहा है परसेंटेज एक्यूरेसी 80 से 90% हो गई
Absolutely.
इट्स मच बेटर
Anybody else?
सर आई हैव अ क्वेश्चन
Sure.
अभी रिसेंटली अभी थोड़ी देर पहले आपने बताया कि रिफाइंड डेटा क्रिटिकल है फ्रॉड डिटेक्शन के लिए बट डोंट यू थिंक कि जो रिफाइंड डेटा है वो एक यूटोपियन आइडिया है क्योंकि एट द एंड ऑफ द डे जो इनपुटर है एंड यूज़र है जो अभी डेटा प्रोवाइड करता है वो अपनी सोच के मुताबिक करता है ठीक है और हर एक के लिए डिफरेंट पॉसिबिलिटीज डिफरेंट सिनेरियो हो सकते हैं तो डोंट यू थिंक कि एआई शुड बी स्मार्ट इनफ टू एक्सट्रैक्ट रिफाइंड डेटा फ्रॉम दैट गार्बेज
Yes, so and so basically what you're talking about are human biases, I would say, in a way. कि humans का अपना एक bias होता है, so certain humans think a little differently as compared to the others. And while that is true and might be considered a limitation, it is also the way that humans are designed actually. ये शायद हमें lenses चाहिए of different people to look at data because we want ultimately the machine to learn like a human, right? तो हमें शायद वो cultural lens भी चाहिए कि एक बंदा अगर किसी और culture से है तो he is looking at it from that cultural perspective और एक पाकिस्तानी है वो fraud को different तरीके से देख रहा है. We need those lenses because we don't know the fraud करने वाला आता है वो क्या बाहर से आता है या वो पाकिस्तानी है, ठीक है? So I understand your point and actually one of the reasons why we want to use AI to also explain itself is also to eliminate the bias. कि जब वो explain करता है ना अपने आप को, तो वो जो rule उसने use किया होता है, जिसके जरिए उसने वो नतीजा अखज़ किया होता है, वो बताता है. तो जब वो rule बताता है तो आपको समझ आ जाती है कि वो rule गलत है या सही है, and you can retrain. So that's how you actually remove the biases.
For this, you need data mining and then you apply behavioral sciences on it?
I would say yes, data mining is a critical part of the preparation of data.
Categorize the data and
Absolutely, yeah.
and then you apply behavioral science on it.
Yes, you can,
This is
absolutely.
what you call in bottom.
Yes, and data scientists' main role is basically, देखिए जो हम कहते हैं जो भी typical AI projects या data projects हैं ना उसमें जो 80% of the time है, that should actually be the data preparation, जिसमें हम data को understand करते हैं, the business कि business में से data flow कैसे हो रहा है, what are the dynamics of the data, you try to figure that out, you try to figure out what is the important data and what is not so important, which data should I use to train the model on, and which data should I not. For instance, my name is not as important in fraud management as perhaps my location from where I did the transaction.
And of course, if you don't have a mind, then you can't do that.
Absolutely. So data mining is basically again another kind of data preparation, जिसमें हम data को दे देते हैं and we try to find clusters of data which are kind of similar, and then we try to categorize that. So absolutely, and that's also one area of finding out the outliers. कौन से हैं जो norm से बाहर हैं transactions. So that's another example of removing bias. And data scientists की जो job है ना वो यही है. They have to be on top of their data. They have to know exactly what data is all about. Scientist का लफ्ज़ तो मैं कहता हूँ वो ऐसी है या बात की चीज़ है वो. That should be the science of it is not that important as compared to the data of data scientist. Data.
IBM tools for data science.
Yes, there are IBM tools for it. It also depends on who's using it and what they're using it for. There are definitely mechanisms available.
And you can see example.
Yes, so for instance, one of the things that we've, and also as part of explainable AI, what we're trying to do is data की जो lineage है, उसको ट्रैक करना, उसको अंडरस्टैंड करना और उसकी सिमेंटिक्स को अंडरस्टैंड करना, वो उसके लिए हमने टूल बनाया हुआ है जिसको हम डेटा गवर्नेंस के अंदर यूज़ करते हैं, डेटा फैब्रिक हम कहते हैं उसको। सो डेटा की रेजिडेंसी कहाँ पर है, उसकी वैलिडिटी कब तक है, वो क्या ऑथेंटिक है, क्या सोर्स था, ये सारी चीज़ें हम उसकी मैनेज करते हैं। प्लस एक एंटरप्राइज वाइड डेटा ग्लॉसरी मेंटेन करना कि ये टर्म का क्या मतलब है, ठीक है। व्हाट डज अ कस्टमर अकाउंट मीन? Customer account is comprised of 14 numbers. What does those 14 numbers actually mean? The first 4 numbers are actually the branch account number, for instance. इस तरह की जो हमारी जो semantics है, उसको maintain करना एक जगह पे, ताकि कोई भी नया बंदा आता है उसको सामने नजर आए. These are all the kinds of capabilities जो कि use की जा सकती हैं. There are tools available for that, and we do have such examples. So I think I'm short of my time, and thank you so much for those interesting questions. Keep them coming. I'll be here during the day. Let me know if I can be of help. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think it was kudos to him for stepping up the understanding of not just, we started off from learning computing, and he ramped it up to weak AI, strong AI, and general AI. And then also a lot of interesting questions. This tells us about the curiosity in the general public about what machine learning is, what AI is. But without further ado, I would like to introduce the next speaker. He's here to talk about one of the favorite topics. In fact, one of the things that we just learned in Ashraf's presentation. He's going to talk about an era of autonomous driving or an era of autonomous driving networks. Please give a big hand to Sayyid Bilal Qasim from Huawei.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Good morning. I'm welcoming you all to this conference, and I'm very thankful to the organizer team who have actually given us this opportunity. So today I'll be speaking about the autonomous driving networks and how this journey has started. And so I'll start with a digital maturity model. Then we'll be talking about AI a bit, because what the IBM colleague have already explained it in more detail, so I'm just going to go through that part, and then we are going to be discussing the challenges that the industry is facing right now in the network field, and how this autonomous driving network can help them improve in their network capabilities. So starting with the digital maturity model, so the first step first, so digital maturity model is a global standard, and it's like an entire process where you want to achieve a digital transformation for any enterprises. So it starts with the digitization process, which is the basic one, where you are actually converting all of your analog data to a digital one. Like you are getting rid of the paper, you are converting you are giving tags to the documents that you have. And typically the requirement of any enterprises who want to survive in this current digitization era. So the first step of this model is to digitize yourself. So once you have digitized yourself, then you have to move to the digitalization process, where you are actually transforming your process from entire processes from the manual operations to an automatic or autonomous operations. And then we will have to, the enterprises have to achieve the digital transformation, where you need to make sure that you have a digital twin of your enterprises on the cloud, so that you can better manage it and take good business decisions. So if we talk about the AI, so AI actually is an umbrella term, which is which is actually starts from the sensing part. So anything, if we want to achieve this digital transformation journey, we have to make everything sense. So for example, my watch or the cell phone I have should be connected to the camera, and it should start sensing. They can take my pictures, they can live stream. So these are all the inputs, like the text and natural language processing. So these are some of the basics of the sensing, where we are actually converting the real senses to the digital one. And then everything has to be connected over a cloud. So if my phone is connected to my camera, I can access my camera anytime I want from my cell phone. And in order to add the intelligence, this should be on the cloud because we have to deploy these machine learning algorithms which are not very light and your phone usually don't support it. So you have to put all these data that is live streamed from the camera of your house, and you have to put it on the public cloud or any of your private cloud, and then you have to take these intelligent decisions based on the data that you're getting. So for example, if you have a security camera installed right in front of your like the home gate where you're living, and there's some suspicious activity ongoing over there. So what the camera is going to do in the intelligent era, it's going to capture this live streaming video. It's going to take it to the cloud since it's connected to the cloud, and then it can to make it more intelligent. What it can do is that it can inform the nearby police station with the location that of your house, so that the police can be there on time, and it can send you a notification over the cloud, making sure that you take the safety precautions, etc. So this is how we are going to achieve the digital transformation. So talking about the networks, so there are traditional problems that the networks are facing right now. So number one is the operational cost of the networks. There's like a very huge operational cost for the network maintenance, network optimization, and if you want to like roll out new services. So it's really tough most of the time to like make changes in the real-time network. Otherwise, you can like face network downtime, and it can affect your entire business. Moving forward, the second challenge that is obviously the cost. So if you have more operational cost, and then you have like if you want to make sure that your downtime is the minimum possible, you have to be like relying on the experts and consultancy. So this consultancy is also a cost, and you have to make sure that you minimize these costs for the enterprises. And then the downtime itself is a biggest challenge that the enterprises are facing these days. So one of the bank in China, so their services were down for 2 minutes, and they have like the total transactions that were going through the bank in that 2 minutes was around $40 million, and they have like loses those transactions because of this 2 minutes downtime. So this is a typical problem of the enterprises and specifically the banking customers. And with the COVID-19, we have seen an incremental change in the network requirement. So if we talk about the global traffic from the telcos, so the total increment in the first half of 2020, when the COVID was just hit one city and then it started spreading to the world. So the total global traffic was increased by 50%. And talking about the cloud, because now the enterprises were having no other options and they have to migrate all their operations to the public cloud to make sure that their enterprises are up and running. So the global growth that the cloud industry has seen was 34%, which was $30.4 billion till the third quarter of 2020. Also the requirement of the remote offices, so it have increased as well, and it have grown 5x time the offline, like the before COVID day, for example, there was one person working from office online. Now there are more people working online, and every one of us were working remotely, so we are all aware of this challenge. And then the online education. So there were, within China, there were 175 new online universities launched on every single day. And if you are like changing your educational operations online, so you need to make sure that your network, you expand your network, you add new routers, you add new switches, and it was a very complex process to make sure that the education is up and running. and then the e-commerce industry have seen a 350% of overall growth. So this is one of the case study from the Wuhan hospital, which was created in 10 days. So every one of us is aware of this hospital, which was highlighted on the news channels as well. So what actually happened was that when this virus hit Wuhan city, the government of China decided to create a hospital within 10 days. And then the challenge was the accessibility to that hospital, because there was very limited access to that hospital because they didn't want to populate it a lot. So what Huawei in this scenario did was that they have installed 1,000 Wi-Fi 6 equipment in there, and then they start managing all these services from cloud. So we deployed this entire project in 3 days. Though it was a very difficult task, but what we did was that our engineers just installed the equipment within 3 days, and after that he come to the cloud part and we just start managing from the public cloud that was having access to this overall network. Then we have seen that the hospitals which were on the remote sites, which were not in the mainstream cities, they were having these difficulties to access the data. So then we have to digitize those hospitals as well to make sure that all the data is available globally. So we can see the network requirement over here. Like the hospitals are connected through the LAN, through the WAN of the city, and then globally it's accessed from all across the world. So the network traffic have increased incrementally. The second case study is about the digital banking. What the banking, according to our discussions with our customers, since we have a lot of banking customers now. So the typical problem is the customer acquisition. They want to bring new customers in, and it's a difficult task as well. But one of the research have shown that one bank in China have launched a service one day ahead the other bank, and they have acquired 300,000 extra customers in the very first day. That was the competition between the banks is way too much nowadays. And these competition is based on the customer services and support that we provide to the customers. Usually the banking, the overall banking network is very complex. There are multiple data centers deployed in different cities, and then the global data centers as well, and all these transactions happening through the different data centers and campuses. So it's a very tough network as well to manage. So why do we propose this solution, the ADN solution? So the number one purpose for this ADN solution was the survival of the enterprises, because networking is one of the very important part for the survival of the enterprises. Then there were multiple networks within the same organization. They have their campus network, they have their multiple data center networks. So we just wanted to take all the control at one controller level, so that we can control all the network on one controller, rather than making changes on every single device itself. And then the main challenge was to switch from the static data to the dynamic data. So we want to know the current health status, we want to know all the alarms, we want to know all the traffics passing through this network, and we want it to be centralized, not only limited to the device that it's passing through. So autonomous driving network is very similar to autonomous driving car. So what it does is that it have the sensor level or the equipment level, where it collects all the data and then it sends it to the upper level controller, who is going to be taking decisions based on the data that's coming to it. And the controller is actually an intelligent controller which have this AI capabilities, which one of the guy from IBM was talking about. We have like deep learning and machine learning algorithms installed. We have a data of 7,000 different network scenarios available in our cloud. So it compares your scenario with that specific, like your requirement with that specific. What happened is that then if this service that you want to intend is not available on our public cloud, so it's gonna go to the upper level where it's gonna like make the scenario available for the other customers across the world. So like for example, if we are using the autonomous car, so for example, my intent is to go to a cinema and I'm going through a path which have a lot of traffic. So what my car is going to do is it's going to take me to that point, and also it's going to inform the public cloud that, for example, the Sharai Faisal have like a lot of traffic. So just don't use that route and like use another way to access the cinema. So this is happening on the runtime, and it's only possible because of the dynamic data that we are getting. So our solution, which we have launched for this ADN, was back in 2020. So we launched this solution in October 2020, and actually it's the ADN solution is some of the key technologies that were used before for the networking part. So the first one is the digital twins. So digital twin is actually when you use our master NC. So what it's gonna do is that it's gonna create a digital twin of your network. So the physical network data is coming there. So it's gonna make a similar digital twin of it. So it's like similar to the network, but it's in a form of a simulation. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to give it my intent. For example, I want to launch this new service, based on that intention, it's going to generate the intentions. So it's actually the output that the machine learning output of the machine learning. So I'll give it the output, and it's gonna figure out that how it's gonna achieve that. So it is gonna achieve it through a different level of configurations, which are gonna be done automatically, and then these the configuration that I've got, I'm gonna apply it to the simulation layer, so I can see the final results of it. So whenever I'll be launching a new service, what I'm gonna do is I'll just get a digital twin on my iMaster NC, then I'll give it my intention, and then I can simulate I can get the simulation verification. And finally, if there are some scenarios that are not available and it's performed by any of the engineer, it's going to be stored in the public cloud for the references purposes, and it's going to be stored in the knowledge graph that we have in our public cloud. So moving forward, so this is what is actually going to happen. So for example, this is if I talk about Huawei, we have we have been working in 170 countries across the world, where we have more than 100 plus campuses across the world, and we have 4 data centers. So our network is very complex, and this is like some of the recommendation. So ADN network can give you a recommendation, like the system has recommended network schema. So you want to start a deployment, but since it's the L3 level automation, so it's definitely going to be on the consent of the end user. So if you want, if your network is facing any downtime, and if, like for example, we predict, the iMaster NC predict that in the next couple of days, the traffic on specific link is going to be very high, and your router won't be able to support it, so then it can give us a suggestion that you can use this alternative route for your traffic. So this is how it typically is going to look, that it's going to give you an intent that this is the problem that you're going to face in the upcoming days. And we have the solution for this. So please give us permission so that we can implement these changes on your network, on your live network or a simulation network to improve your network quality. And what is so special about our ADN solution is that it's self-organizing. So for example, the Wuhan hospitals, there were 1,000 devices installed, the Wi-Fi devices, and and like all of them were the agile services. There were a lot of new services coming in there. And what we did was that it was centralized control on the controller of IR Master NC. And we like so what it did was that it self-organized in the best optimal way possible. So we didn't did anything, we just give it to the iMaster NC and it organizes and make an entire structure for us. The second very important capability that this ADN have is the 135 rule. So what our network can do is that it can detect any fault. So if your live network is facing have like encountered any fault, so it's going to detect it in 1 minute. In 3 minutes, with the digital twin that we have and the static and the dynamic data that we have, we can figure out the exact problem that is happened in my live network. And within 5 minutes, it's going to give a solution for that, and it's going to implement it on the devices to reduce this time down, etc. And self-optimization as well. So, like the Huawei manufacturing plant, we manufacture one Huawei P40 Pro mobile phone in 28.5 seconds. So, the ADN is going to be the requirement of all the organizations in the upcoming years, and because because all the organizations who are not going to adopt this technology, they are going to be behind the other organizations who are they competing with, because we have to start this digital transformation journey from now, otherwise we are going to be lag behind the other countries. The intelligent era is about to come, and our mission is to build a fully connected, intelligent world. So thank you so much everyone. If you have any questions, please, I'll take 2 questions because of the limited time, and then we can have a one-on-one discussion if you want to have any. Yes, bro.
Talking about the ADN network, what kind of industries could this network be applied for?
So any industry that are using this networking, because what we want to achieve is that we want to make sure that we optimizes the network. So it can be adopted by all the industries, the educational industry, it can be adopted by the government itself, it can be adopted by the banking, because it's very highly recommended for the banking customers specifically, and the commercial customers, the manufacturers, because this is gonna make their life easier and can decrease the operational cost. Yes.
How soon can we get a driverless car in Pakistan?
Okay, so we already have launched our L3 level automation of the autonomous driving car in China, and the results that it have achieved was actually of L4 level automation. But actually currently we are working with different car manufacturing companies at the moment, and we believe that as soon as they launch it, because it's not, we just give them the test that our network and our technology is capable of the autonomous driving network. So it really depends on our partner company whenever they want to launch. But if I talk about Pakistan, so I think it's not very far away. We can see the autonomous car in the next 5 years maybe. So thank you so much everyone. If you have any questions, I'll be around. We can have a one-on-one discussion.
Thank you very much, Bilal. Ladies and gentlemen, अकबर तो अपने मेहमानों को चाय पिलाना चाह रहे हैं, लेकिन मैं आप लोग को 1 मिनट और दूंगा। फैसल अकबर साहब, आपसे प्लीज मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा आप स्टेज पे आए और हमारे 2 स्पीकर्स को शील्ड दें. We would like to present a token of appreciation. Akbar, are you here? Yeah, Akbar, I would also want you on the stage, please. Please. Very good presentation to start the day. बिलाल साहब ने हमें आस्था कराया कि 5 साल बाद ऑटोनोमस ड्राइविंग स्टार्ट हो रही है। Thank you very much, Mr. Saab. Thank you very much, Bilal and Nasir. Ladies and gentlemen, please move to the tea area. And in the interest of time, I would request you guys to please come back within 15 minutes. We have a very excellent panel discussion just after the tea break. Thank you.